All right, what are we doing here? We're live. Good evening. Welcome to episode 14, Sean.
How you doing, Rich?
Doing good, doing good. It's been a busy week. Had a bunch of people around the world pissed off at me. I managed to trigger Scotland, Ireland, England, Australia, and recently today, Hungary. Doing good. It's been a busy week. Had a bunch of people around the
Sorry
world.
about that.
Feedback. Is that coming off yours?
Yeah, there you go. That is me. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Jeez, I'm an amateur over here.
I know. You got to mute these things before you get in, but sometimes you haven't got the line through the bar for some reason.
Yeah.
All right. So today's topic, we're at episode number 14 of Before the Train Wreck. For those of you that are new to the show, checking it out for the first time, Sean and I are committed to trying to help guys avoid making a train wreck out of their life. So we decided to put on the show together. Sean is a clinical psychologist in Denver, Colorado, also a great author, wrote one of my favorite books called The Tactical Guide to Women, and a good friend. How long have you been in psychology, Sean?
I've been in private practice for coming up on 15 years now, but there's a lot of years of training before that and working in drunk tanks and whatnot. So I don't know, 20 years.
Yeah, and you, I think you said your specialty was anxiety, wasn't it?
Yeah, I started off working with anxiety, and I like anxiety because it's relatively straightforward and easy to fix, and I like being able to fix things.
Awesome, and that's what we're going to do with these shows. So I'm going to post the join link in a little bit, guys. If you have a situation you want to vet, again, this is before the train wreck, so we're trying to help you guys avoid making some bad choices or decisions that'll get you some lousy results. So rather than going through the divorce machine and getting completely divorce raped and going through all that sort of trouble, you can potentially avoid things like that, bad business decisions, money, whatever. But that's what we want to try to help you guys do. So come with questions that help you avoid the train wreck, possibly. If there's anything that's experience related to tonight's topic, hey, I went through this myself. This was my experience. This is what I learned. You can come with that too. This is, of course, recorded. So from time to time, I get people messaging me after they've joined in. They're like, can you blur out my face? And it's like, no, don't create extra work for me. If you want to join in and contribute to the conversation, but you're concerned about your identity, just do it with audio only. Don't run your camera. And last but not least, make sure you have the audio of the playback off in the background if you're doing this like on several devices or whatever, or multiple screens.
All right. Don't be like me.
Yeah, don't be like us. So actually, let's deal with the link that you sent to me with the article before we talk about the single mommies. The title was "Women Now Empowered by Everything a Woman Does."
I thought this was important to discuss. This comes from The Onion, and if anybody doesn't know, The Onion is a satire magazine, and they're kind of equal opportunity. They'll pick on everybody a little bit once in a while. So this was clearly picking on feminists, and they're just making fun of the fact that women are now empowered by everything women do, and starts out with a quote like, "From what she eats for breakfast to the way she cleans her home, today's woman lives in a state of near constant empowerment," said Barbara Klein, a professor of women's studies at Oberlin College. And it kind of sounds like something that would come out of some gender studies department.
Yep.
Goes on to talk about how, if they eat a lot or don't eat a lot, or if they gain weight or if they lose weight, it doesn't matter what they do. Everything they do empowers them. And it sums up by saying, only by lauding every single thing a woman does, no matter how ordinary, can you truly go, girls.
It's been linked in the chat for you guys. So if you're watching the replay, look for it in the chat. Okay, let's hop into the single mother topic because we haven't done this one yet. And I think it's a good opportunity to kind of like dovetail off what went on this week. So for those of you that have missed the news, apparently a 3-minute video clip from a 50-minute full talk was extracted with some screenshots. And I'm going to say at least a dozen articles have been generated off that. They've all been lazily written. If you go back to a video I uploaded last Friday, I think, I kind of go through it and I deal with all the items and the issues that they protest. And there's really not a lot of arguments for dating single mothers. There's a lot of point and sputter. You're ugly, you're bald, all kinds of reasons tied in and around that. So of course, you'll get an idea from that. But the thing that I wanted to drill down on was, I guess, the bullet points. So let's try to hit this while people consider joining and sharing experiences. Did you want to kind of walk me through this one, Sean, or?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to catch up on what happened here. I caught a little bit of it this weekend where you were getting yelled at by people on the other side of the ocean, and it seemed like they were taking a lot of stuff out of context. And I thought that it might be a good springboard for us to talk about, maybe take a different angle on this, like when should you date a single mommy? But break down what happened here. Who was the first person to take you to the mat on this?
I'm not exactly sure what the origin was, but the outrage mob seems to all be toxic feminists that are probably single mothers, from what I can gather. In fact, most of them look like single mothers when you click on their Twitter links. And of course, I shone a light on some unfavorable facts that aren't that flattering for single mommies, and they got very upset because you're not allowed to talk about those things and reveal them. Men are to be kept in the dark. The female primary social order needs men in the dark. So talking about things like that are offensive, or that's how they deem them anyway.
So some of the stuff that you talked about wasn't inherently offensive. I think that you were talking about basic risk management, correct?
Essentially, I mean, it's kind of the basis of your book is risk management in relationships. And my talk that year was a 50-minute talk, and that 3-minute clip just dealt with the risk management that's associated with single mothers and what guys need to know. So I bullet pointed some items and I kind of explained them throughout the talk. The full talk's on my channel. It's linked in the card. So I'll put it up on the top right after this one. If you guys are watching the replay, I'll just make a quick note so I don't forget. But yeah, that's essentially what it was. It's just managing the risks that's associated with single mothers that most people don't know until they get into it. It's kind of like the same thing when it comes to marriage and divorce. Like you have to manage that risk before you get into it. And nobody's taught this course, right?
No.
It's something you kind of have to live.
Or learn from other people. So as I'm looking at the comments here, there's a lot of name calling. It just goes back and forth. Someone will call you a narcissistic pig, and then a bunch of guys will come in and say, well, no, not really.
Well, the guys were basically saying, well, he's not wrong. And the women were just saying he's ugly, bald, and could never get me anyway. And interestingly enough, when you click on a few of the pictures, because they use Facebook, it's kind of embedded in, so it goes to their Facebook profile. I'm not even going to describe what these mommies look like, but have a look for yourself if you want to.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we'll do the reasons why you might want to get into a relationship, or when it might be ideal to go and date or get into an LTR with a single mom. But the warnings that I issued were: 1, double, triple the heartbreak. And by the way, guys, the link to join is added to the live chat. So if you want to join and ask questions, or if you want to do something to avoid the train wreck, you can kind of interrupt as we're doing this, because there's a bunch of bullet points there. So just kind of fill in the blanks as we're going this. So, oh, hang on, this got pushed down here. So the first one was double or triple the heartbreak. And the thing that men don't understand is when you get involved with a woman that's got kids from prior relationships or relationship, and you start spending time with these kids, you're going to be taking them on camping trips. You're going to be zeroing the scope on this BB gun that you bought them for Christmas and playing Halo with them. And you're going to form a relationship. And unlike your own kids, when you get divorced, you're probably, hopefully, still going to see your own kids if you get divorced. But if you break up with a single mommy, it's very unlikely you're ever going to see them again. So you end up going through what I coined double or triple the heartbreak, depending on how many kids she's bringing to the table. So that's the first warning that I issued to men. Obviously taken out of context, because you're starting to come down from top to bottom on a bunch of items that are somewhat annoying to be revealed.
Yes.
Questionable judgment skills.
What do you mean by questionable judgment skills?
What I meant was they make a lot of choices that are not getting them useful results. I'm the guy that's talked about this many times on my channel, so this shouldn't be new. But to clarify, my understanding is if you look at somebody's results, you're going to have a good idea of the kind of choices they make on a day-to-day basis. So if your life is filled with drama, conflict, you've got serious money issues, you've got problems with your kids based on choices that you've made, then that stuff's going to pile up. And you're always going to become the average of the people you spend a lot of time with. And if you're going to spend a lot of time with a single mother that's made bad choices, and my experience and many of the men that I've dealt with will echo this. And when guys get into relationships with single mothers, it's on a spectrum. And what I've heard is it's the worst thing I've ever done on the far end to, it has its challenges. I've never had anybody say to me, it's been the best choice I've ever made in my entire life. Or if I could do it all over again, I'd probably choose not to do it with a single mother. And it generally revolves around the choices they make. I mean, there's any number of ways you can slice it and dice it, right? There's something like 30 different forms of birth control for women and a couple for men. Like, you get pregnant by choice. Women are the gatekeepers to childbirth and pregnancy, right? That's why they have all the birth control items issued. And even if you have an issue with a broken condom or something like that, they have things like morning after pills. Like, there's remedies and stuff like this, and you can prepare for them. So making better choices avoids these problems. Now, I've got this picture here. I wish I could send it to you, Sean. I had this comment, and I'm just going to kind of dovetail into this, because the problem, and we're kind of going off the single mother thing to what facilitates the single mother thing. And there was a woman that commented on a video that I put out last week, and she said, the thing that infuriates me is my hubby makes about $50,000 a year, and I make about half that. But when you're talking to people about responsibility for themselves, you do realize that if I were to leave my hubby and become a single mother with government benefits, I'd have way more money. She goes on to break it down further in a second paragraph later on. She says, my friend who's a single mother who does the exact same job that she does, and this woman's married, mind you, makes the same money that she does. We sat down and compared our finances with all the subsidies and tax breaks she receives from the government. She has about $1,000 a month more than my family in disposable income. So given that both of their salaries are the same, and her husband works, so she's married, so they've got a greater household income, this lady's friend that holds the same position makes $1,000 a month more because of tax breaks and subsidies. So all you got to do is look at the incentives, right? I mean, that's why they make those choices. But unfortunately, even with the government subsidies, they still don't get the greatest results out of life. That was my experience and that of many men. So that's why I put that point in there. Oh, shout out to Disco for the super chat. Said, Richard, thank you for being the older brother I never had. You speak the truth, and I can confirm all you say is accurate in the modern world. Stand your ground, because that's the essence of masculinity. Absolutely. Thank you. And thanks for the support, guys. Really appreciate the super chats. You want to go on to another one, Sean? Oh, you're muted. I don't know if you said anything.
In your bullet list, I apologize. I'm off my game here. I'm fighting off a cold, and I'm angry about it because I know exactly who gave it to me. It's a filthy, germ-ridden colleague who could have easily stayed home. And this is the second time this has happened to me, so I'm a little pissed off, and I'm a little off my game. I apologize. But one of your points in your bullet list here is emotionally unavailable. What do you mean?
Yeah, they just don't have time to connect with you emotionally. You know, men and women love differently. Like, we know that, right? We've talked about how women love more opportunistically, meaning what does a man bring to the table, whereas a man kind of loves in the idealistic sense, kind of like the Disney-esque, sort of way. And it's even further removed from the reality of that difference on the sexual marketplace, the way that men and women love, because they've got children to deal with. They've got a job to deal with. They've got a independent life they got to deal with because they've either left their marriage or their husband left them. I mean, often it's her job, her 3 kids, her cat, the broken washer and dryer in the basement, then you, sort of thing. So there's not a lot of option or ability to make any kind of real form connection. By the way, guys, the join link is in the chat. So just join us. If you got something to contribute, or if you got a question to ask, kind of as we're going through this. Sorry, Sean, go ahead.
Rarely take ownership. What did you mean by that one?
Well, that's my favorite.
Yeah.
You've never dated divorced women, and that was pretty much. I
have, actually.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, I dated a single mommy way back before I became a psychologist, and I can attest to the 200% heartbreak.
Got it. Perfect. What about the ownership component? I'm going to throw that back at you before.
Tell me what you mean. Well, ownership of what? Ownership of her choices? What are you talking about?
Ownership in life in general. And you'll notice a general theme in the article. And here, I'll post a quick article because there's one over here. You guys can check this out later. Just pop it open on a browser and look at the discussion, because again, it's people are logged in with Facebook to make their posts. So you see their comment, you see them, to get an idea of the source. I always consider the source, right? Like, it's always an interesting thing. So with respect to the ownership part, you go out on enough dates with single mommies that are divorced, and you want to bring up the question, in my view, so what happened to the marriage? Just to hear what their side of the story is and see how they explain why there was a breakdown. And we know that women initiate 70 to 80% of the divorces, so it's mostly them exiting and making these calls. And not once did I ever hear a woman say, well, I fucked up. or I made some bad choices, or these are the things that I did that led to the breakdown of the marriage. It was always he was a bum. He couldn't hold down a job. He kept quitting his job. He was stupid. He was always depressed. He got fat. Fill in the blank, right? So I never heard any one of them take ownership. And as you kind of spend more and more time with them, it's all kinds of things are going sideways, and then there's no ownership for the choices that they made that got those results. So you kind of look at it like, well, like 1 + 1 = 2. So if you want to get 3, then you need to change your input. So can we talk about maybe changing the input? Oh, you're a misogynist if you talk about things like that, and blah, So that's generally the way that those conversations go. They're not extremely productive.
I have heard women in this situation take responsibility and say that they really regret their decisions, that they missed the red flags. And I think you and I are looking at different audiences, because people who come to my office typically aren't looking to play the victim card. They're typically looking to level up and improve things. And so I think there's probably some self-selection that's going on with women who do come into my office. But I've heard a few of them really regret the choices that they've made and really struggle with how to make the most of it, having attached themselves to some dirtbag guy or some deadbeat dad or whatever.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because it's always good to have that that challenge, at least. That's why I like having you on here. I like the sober second thinker. Oh, look at that. Mary Lee White, $50, showing support for the channel. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mary Lee. Would you say that you are reflexively opposed to any man dating any single mommy?
Not in its entirely. There can be scenarios where it might make sense, of which I explained in my talk that day. A scenario, for example, if you've got a 10-year-old daughter and you meet a woman that has a 10-year-old daughter that's in the relative same school zone sort of thing, and your kids have similar interests or might be involved in an extracurricular activity, for example, that might be a situation that might work, provided she doesn't bring a slew of any of the other baggage, like borderline personality disorder, has extreme daddy issues, constantly fighting with her ex over custody and money and court battles. So that's that's a potential scenario that might make sense. But there's also significant risk too, because if you have a daughter, the biggest risk to a little girl growing up, and I experienced this having conversations with many divorced women, which, by the way, lived these sorts of scenarios where it's either the stepbrother or the stepfather or the mom's boyfriend or something like that, does something to them when they're a small child as a little girl, and that really messes them up. They can do any number of things that can violate little girls in a way that really fucks with their head as they're adults. And you don't want to put your daughter in that kind of environment if you're a guy. So if you bring in a single mommy with, let's say, 3 boys, for example, that are older, and one of them might be, off the rails and, capable of doing things like that, then you've just put your daughter at risk in that environment. And it doesn't make any sense to me. And I saw that, like, I personally saw that myself. And I've talked to many other men that have seen that, where they've seen, like, as the boys of their single mommy girlfriends are starting to mature and hit puberty, and they've got a young daughter, and they start behaving in a way that is potentially risky, like trying to sleep in the same bed at night with them. You've got problems like that. And if you don't, quash that, then it's huge, man. It's really, really bad. So you could just avoid that altogether by not dating a chick that's got, several boys that are not going to have anything in common with your daughter.
So this is some of the nuance that I suspect these angry women did not pick up on in your presentation.
Yeah. All of those things, 100%. And you're not going to get that if you take small sound bites. If you make source selected sound bites to present outwardly, it's a 50-minute talk. They only took like a 3-minute video and a couple of screenshots. One of them, which was designed to solicit the attention of the audience at the very beginning. And I clearly stated, this is not mine. Somebody sent it to me, but just understand the joke behind it and why people joke about these things. Let's dive right into it. But of course, that's taken completely out of context.
Yeah. Ask me if I'm reflexively opposed to it.
Are you?
No, I'm not. And I'll tell you why. I think it's a huge risk. I'm all about managing risks. I'm all about when you're dating a woman, just a woman who's unattached and doesn't have children, that's risky enough. And I want guys to break down the variables like clarity, stability, maturity, and all the subcomponents of that. And they want them guys to infiltrate the system and learn as much as they can about this woman. And that alone is a big enough challenge. When you throw a kid in the mix, you're then not only attaching yourself to her, you're attaching yourself to her situation. That means her ex and her children and whatever problems they're bringing along. And so now suddenly the number of variables that you have to vet for and you have to try to isolate and decide what effect they will have on your future has increased tremendously. And I don't know how to put a mathematical number to it, but it at least doubles, probably triples or quadruples. It gets very complicated.
Mm.
And so the risk becomes almost impossible to predict. Not impossible, but having said that, the reason I'm not reflexively opposed to it, even though I think that is incredibly risky and generally not a good idea, is that I've met so many people who've said to me that their stepfathers have changed their lives, that were it not for their stepfathers, that they would have taken their family dysfunction into the next generation.
Right.
And interestingly, I've not heard people say their stepmothers change their lives. And that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. I just haven't heard about it. I'm sure that it happens out there. But, the fact that a guy can step in to a messed up situation and repair it and stop that damage from going forward and have these tremendous relationships that develop, it's a big prize to go for. But the risk is it's just unbelievable to me. Like, I would never take on that risk personally. I can't imagine being in that situation, taking on that risk. So it's sort of like a very high stakes game. If you really want to go for that big prize and the perfect woman comes, so-called perfect woman, an ideal woman comes along and you get along great with her kids. And like you say, the logistics line up nicely, then okay, maybe you consider it. But just know that you're taking on a tremendous number of variables that you have to try to vet for.
Absolutely. Just going to mute you, Brian. Paul, I'm going to get to you in 1 second. Before we do that, got a super chat from John Alba. I want to shout out and say thank you. Appreciate it. He says, I'm a 20-year-old single dad, spinning plates, have no desire to wife up single moms. Friends tell me I'm hypocritical. Am I wrong? Thanks. I'd say no. Do what you want, man. You put yourself first, put yourself forward, put yourself first. A lot of people will say, well, you're a single dad, so you should date a single mom. No. Why? Why do I got to do what you tell me? Why do I got to take on those risks? Why do I expose myself to those risks? It's, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. But, by the same token, if you're a single father and you've got kids, I mean, each time you add a kid into the equation, women know that it complicates the equation. If you're an 8 without kids, but you got 3 kids, guess what? You're a 5 in the real world, sort of thing. So you have to be a super high value man if you're going to date, single women with no kids. If you bring kids to the table, it's just, it's a reality of the world. But thank you, John. I appreciate that. I think, Paul, you're up. If you want to unmute yourself, did you have a question or something to contribute? You're just listening. Okay, I'll come back to you, Paul. Brian, you want to unmute yourself? Did you have a question or something to contribute? Stumbling up here. No, we got people just listening. Guys, if you're going to click the link, have a question or an experience to share, please. I'm going to let you guys both go, Paul and Brian. Eject. Oh, by the way, I have some good news, Sean.
Yeah, what's that?
So with all these super chats tonight, thank you guys, by the way. I got my mixer, just arrived in the mail. So my IT guy will be here later on this week. We'll get it set up and we'll have people being able to call in again. So
you're going to make some smoothies with that mixer? What do you do with that mixer?
I don't know. I just push buttons and it blends all the audio in so that when we run Blog Talk Radio, everybody can hear what's going on and it broadcasts properly, because that software I was using was crap. I mean, that's awesome. That's what you get. When you get free software, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get problems with it. It's going to flake out on you.
Well, let me just close out this single mommy topic on my end with saying that one of the things that makes it so incredibly complicated and a situation to mainly avoid is that if you think about the child, you shouldn't, if you're a guy and you're serious about a woman, you shouldn't even meet the child until you're way down the road and you're thinking about making a serious commitment. And only then should you meet the child, and only then should it be conditional, which says, okay, we can go forward provided that this works well. And I see so many people throwing their kids into the mix of their dating early on. They have these stupid, ridiculous romantic adventures and they get their children involved, and I have no patience for it, because really that's what all this comes down to for me. Like in this situation with single moms and single dads, I'm mainly concerned about the kids. And if you can get your happiness to line up with that, then cool. But let's not make things harder for the kids. And that was a mistake I made, way back when I was a young guy. I dated a single mom. met this lady and she had a kid, and I ended up meeting the kid way too early, which I shouldn't have done and she shouldn't have done. And I ended up liking the kid a lot more than I liked her. He was a cool kid. And when we broke up, it was pretty rough on both of us, I think. And you know, he didn't need me sticking around his life because he already had a dad. So it was a very odd situation. I should have never met that kid.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing is most of the time when they try to rush into meeting their kid, or they start texting you pictures of them and their kids and what they're doing at the park that day or at the aquarium or some shit like that. And this happens very early on with women. You know, they're basically saying, "Hey, look, you know, check out the whole package. You date me, you know, you date my family, and you know, let's kind of blend it up and get together and buy a house and move in and all that kind of stuff." But you need to slow that crap down, man. You need to put the brakes on that. I mean, if you're going to date a single mother, give yourself some time. Make sure that she's financially independent. She makes good choices. She has good judgment calls, because as soon as you throw her kids into the mix, you're going to end up with a whole slew of new problems that you did not anticipate. Things like getting kicked in the shin, being called an idiot. You're not my father. It can go down and that's just the tip of the iceberg. I know a guy that's had to bail out his girlfriend's kids several times because he's constantly getting in trouble with the law. You know, he met her when the kid was like 15 years old, I think. And for the last 3 years, he's gone through one wrecked car and I think 2 bail bonds, if I'm not mistaken. So like, you got to be incredibly careful about how you, Randy, got to mute you. Guys, please mute yourself when you join in. You got to be incredibly careful about, you know, getting involved with a woman with kids. I always just say limit it to dating and that's it. You know, she should be able to stand on her own 2 feet. We've got Randy that joined us. Randy, did you have a question or an experience to share that's relevant to today's topic? A train wreck you want to avoid?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I hope it's not too loud. I'm just on the road in the passenger seat to go into Vancouver right now.
Cool.
So I've spoken to you a few times already, Richard. I'm part of your men's community, the electrician from Alberta.
What's up, brother?
Good, man. I'm good. This isn't really a single mother question. It is before the train wreck, and I'll give you a little bit of frame. And I'm glad we have Sean here listening to this, because I hope that he can help with this too. So I was in an LTR for 4 years. We were common law. We bought a house together. We kind of started.
Oh, you're breaking up, buddy.
Fall apart over the house. I took on
Randy.
possession.
Randy. Hold up, buddy.
And
Hold up.
We had to separate time apart, and we're trying.
I need you to back up. Your audio keeps breaking up.
Yeah.
So back up about 20 seconds. Let's see if we can get it this time. If not, maybe try to click in later on when you got a better signal. I need you to back up. Your audio keeps breaking up. Back up. Oh fuck. Try again, bud.
Sorry about that.
Back up about
what was
20
the last
seconds.
thing you guys heard? Okay, so we decided to have a separation. She moved out last October, and we took some time apart. We're trying to make things work again, but I'm just worried that it's going to be a train wreck. Like, I know in Rollo's books, you know, like the iron rules, don't rekindle that. Don't like dig through the trash. But she has good morals and good values. I'm really struggling because I discovered you, Rich, during the breakup scenario, of course, like most guys do, find the red pill. And I'm just trying to make sure, like, if I do this, I'm vetting it correctly.
Why did you guys break up?
So there was no real, like, gunshot to it. We just I stopped vetting her and we stopped dating. I work away a lot. She's going to school for a master's for psychology right now. So we're just very busy and we stopped making time for each other. Mm-hmm. So
anything there, Sean? Or do you have any clarifying questions?
So the question is, do you give it another shot?
Yes. Like I'm concerned about giving it another shot. I'm worried about being, taken to the cleaners in the future, stuff like that. But it's hard to kind of give the frame here, but I'm really struggling with it because I don't want to hit a train wreck, right? If we get back together and then we separate again, like I have a daughter from a past relationship. She hasn't seen, like my ex and I, we've been dating, and she hasn't seen my daughter in the last 6 months. I'm a little concerned to bring her back into the picture. I'm also I'm worried that like we are common law. Her name is still on the house because we're trying to mend things, but she didn't try and take me for the whole house. She just wanted what she had into it if we did decide to separate. So I'm like, her morals are good. I'm hesitant.
So what is she doing differently, and what are you doing differently this time around?
Well, see, I've gone like, when it rains, it pours. And I've went through a lot of stuff over the last 5-6 months since the separation, and I think she sees that I've gone through personal growth. I'm a competent, capable male, that can kind of like go through the punches and still come out like, unscathed on the other side. Her, on the other hand, she's kind of a bit of a codependent person. She really relies on me for her happiness. And I've been struggling with she's really like pushing the matter that we need to spend more time together. We need to fix this right now. And I'm like, let's take our time apart. Let's figure ourselves out and come back together as a whole circle. And I feel like she's always needing me for her happiness. I feel like I'm the jester in the court always, right? Like when we get together, like, oh, I need, like, what are we going to do? Like, she doesn't have her own hobbies, her own interests.
So Randy, Rollo's in the chat, and I just noticed he said, Jesus, this is exactly why I tell guys not to live with a woman. Why did you guys move in together?
It was the right step. I was blue pilled before, right? I didn't know all this stuff beforehand. I just was doing what I thought was right at the time. We dated each other for 2 years. Then we moved in together. Rented for about a year, signed a year lease, that 1 year commitment, thought we were moving forward. We bought a house together, and then we just kind of fell apart, right?
So let me ask you a question here, Randy. Let's apply a sunk cost analysis to this, because I agree with Rollo. This is why you don't move in with women. And I'm not chewing on your ass here, but this is why you don't do it, because the data and the research says that it makes it very hard to extricate yourself. And it sounds like that's a little bit of what you're struggling with here. So sunk cost analysis. If you didn't have all of these attachments with her, would you strike up a relationship with this woman?
Knowing what I know now, it's hard to say. Like I still love her. That's my problem. Like
you have one-itis for her, man. You have one-itis for her.
Yeah, I do. I am fully aware of that, and I'm really struggling with that. But at the same time, like, she is a good person. Like she really goes above and beyond. Like she's like when she didn't want to take me for, like, she could have taken me for half the house. Like when we put the down payment in, we put 20% down, and 70% of that down payment was from me.
So,
right?
So
hang
on a minute.
You
Randy,
got a good you got an
Randy,
opportunity to walk away here without completely fucking up your financial resources, dude. Like, you've got an out. Sorry, Sean.
No, that's fine. I'm just gonna point out that, Randy, you didn't answer my question. You gave me a lot of story there. If you didn't have these attachments to this woman, would you strike up a relationship with her?
The answer is no. I'll answer for him. Dude, I know the answer is no.
Yeah.
Men, masters of complicating their lives and then justifying why they do it. Because I love her, because we bought a house together, because she didn't take me to the cleaners when we split up, because fill in the blank.
I appreciate that cold hard truth, Richard. That's why I like.
I love you, man.
Right? But it's challenging. Like I don't want to waste a bunch of time. But
so why are you so optionless? Like why do you have to get hung up on this scenario? Like, why are you this optionless? You don't have other women that are attractive that you can date or of interest to you, or what's the story?
If I was to put myself out there, like, I am a good looking guy. I have a lot to offer. The whole dating thing doesn't appeal to me anymore. I have I end my time I don't have time. I'm working all the time. Like, I'm home on weekends and I either have my daughter or I'm trying to like get stuff done.
So you don't want to go through the effort of digging through dirt to find gold, is what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, you know, if you're just going to take the first like bucket of dirt that you scoop out of the ground when you're digging for gold, it may not be in there. You might just have a bucket of dirt, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Randy, I want you to consider this. I'm just pulling you up here on the community tab. Dude, like, you're a good-looking guy. Like, your daughter looks sweet as hell too. Like, just open up the options, man. You got an out here. You know, you have an opportunity to walk from this relationship. She didn't take you to the cleaners. So what? Okay, cool. You know, you managed to retain your financial resources without getting completely train wrecked. And you're calling in to try to avoid the train wreck. And we're telling you to walk, but you're still trying to justify why you should stay. Why are you looking for permission to stay is what I want to ask you.
I'm not looking for permission. I'm just, you know, like, okay, this one, Sean, I'm gonna put this one past you. This last weekend, you've obviously heard of a book called Hold Me Tight.
Okay.
By Sue Johnson. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Book?
I know.
I
know the bullet points. Yeah.
Yeah, we just did a full weekend like course this last weekend in Edmonton, and we spent like 8 hours a day in this course to kind of build our relationship and communication skills again, right? So I know like this train wreck stuff, but like we're still putting in the effort. Am I going to?
We lost you there for about 5 seconds. Say that again, Randy. Am I going? And then we lost you.
Am I going? Like, is this a for sure train wreck, or like if it's like she's willing to put in the work? Like, she paid for this course. She really wants to try. She's got good morals and values. Like, she was raised from a good family. You know, she's got a good career. She's driven. She's doing her master's on the side. Like, she is a good person. We just stopped dating. We just stopped vetting each other, right? And it just kind of deteriorated. There was no smoking gun at the end. So I don't see their.
Hang on,
maybe
Randy.
I should book a coaching call with you.
Hang on, Randy. Take a breath here. I feel like I'm Tyler Durden standing in the back of the convenience store. Randy, the question was, if you didn't have attachments to this woman already existing, would you pursue a relationship with her?
I probably would.
All right.
There's a lot less hesitation when you answered this time. Last time there was a lot of hesitation, dude.
I'm nervous. I'm nervous talking to you.
You're nervous for a reason, man. Your intuition's picking up on something. You know it.
I know. You know what, Rich? I need to book a coaching call with you is what I need to do.
Let's do it, man. Let's hop on it and fix you up.
Yeah.
All right,
man. Well, thanks, guys. And we'll talk soon, Rich.
Okay, brother. Take care.
Okay.
Good luck, Randy.
All right. Who's up? I think Jesse was up next. Jesse, if you want to unmute yourself, did you have a question or something to contribute?
Yeah, g'day guys. And just wanted to say, love your channel, watching it for a while. I've read your book, Sean. Amazing, life-changing. It's just taught me so much about how to communicate better, or not so much better, just how to communicate at all.
Thanks,
I've been doing it wrong for my entire life, and just absolutely changed the way I think and look at a lot of things. Not just the relationship with my current girlfriend, but introspect, going back on how I mismanaged everything. I divorced a few years ago. Was with a girl for 9 years. She was fantastic, but it was one of those relationships that also read No More Mr. Mask Guy last year. I created this debt that she could never repay. I took care of her through a lot of things. I care took, and then I expected a perfect girlfriend, perfect wife in the end, but the pressure put on her, she could never deliver that. And she eventually woke up one day, I was the enemy. And yeah, but that was all that's in the past, solved. Started dating again last year. Hadn't read The Rational Male, hadn't read anything. Spinning plates without knowing what spinning plates was. But a lot of things triggered in my mind after reading The Rational Male, like drawing the target around the shot arrow. I had a mindset to never do that again, because that's kind of what I did and ended up with the last girl. So yeah, was dating a few girls. All of a sudden, over a couple of months, I'd noticed a few girls. I was talking to very few girls, only seeing one girl in particular. Stopped talking to all the girls, just having so much fun with this one girl. She just happened to be single mum, 2 girls. Classic textpurple single mum.
What's a classic textbook single mom in Australia look like?
Purple hair, a tattoo, and like your textbook single. It was hilarious. Like listening to your content and looking at my dating life and going, "Wow, I'm living the cliche." But at the same time, it's been, the hard things have been easy. Typically the slow introduction of the kids and dealing with the exes and just sliding into roles that I shouldn't have slid into, which I backed out of after reading No More Mr. Nice Guy and also reading Sean's work, and communicating that with her. And she agreed, yes, I was doing too much. I was caretaking, and that sort of our communication levels have shot right up. And yeah, we're communicating very well. The hardest part about the relationship that I'm finding with a single mum is dealing with her lack of spare time. Like, I know that I will never be on the same level as her and her kids, and she puts her kids above herself, which bothers me sometimes, to the point where she neglects herself a little bit. She should be on the level of her kids. I believe she shouldn't put her kids first at the cost of herself. And I know I'm coming a distant second to that. And
do you have any kids, Jesse?
Not of my own.
And how old are you?
36.
And how old is she?
39.
And how old are the kids?
One is 2 and one is 9. The 9-year-old was a marriage, which she exited the marriage due to classic. I married someone useless and tried to make it work, and she was the breadwinner. She didn't. There's no child support arrangements on the exit of the relationship. He's just agreed to pay for her eldest daughter's health insurance, and they have like a.
Do they share custody?
Yes, there's some back and forth. It's
so
predominantly.
Is it 50-50?
No, it's not 50. Definitely not. He doesn't pull his weight because he's useless. That's why she left him. He's a nice guy.
Hold on a sec. Is he useless for real, or is it she's telling you he's useless?
I've had interactions with him. He's a nice bloke, but he's in his own little world. He was neglectful. Of course, I have heard biased stories, but based on the interactions with him and the interactions that have come up, he's not switched on. I've attended more.
So if he's not on, if he's not on his game in life, and she made the choice to marry up a guy like that and had 2 kids 7 years apart, would you question her judgment skills?
Absolutely, and I'll get to the second part. Sorry, I'm taking up everyone's time today.
No, this is good. This is what the show's tonight about. So you're the first guy calling in with a single mom. You started train wreck coming up.
Yeah, she had trouble having kids. Had to go through years of IVF to get the first child.
Well, Well, that sounds like an excuse. I mean, if you have your kids in your 20s like you're supposed to, you're not going to have fertility issues. I mean, all these women that are getting fertility treatment at 39, 42.
No, she would have had this. So this kid's 9, so she would have had this kid when she was, I think she was 29 or 30.
Mm-hmm.
And
she's got a 2-year-old
when she
too,
had
right?
this kid. Anyway, she had fertility issues. They ended up conceiving, having the kid, and he didn't pull his weight, even with the child. She was taking her baby to work with her, commuting, being away from the house for 10 to 11 hours. He was working 7-hour days, car detailing around the corner. And
she married a car detailer?
Yeah. Hey, some people are poor. I live.
No, I get it. I get it. But women are hypergamous and they marry up, unless the guy's
that's
like
the
a total
confusing.
alpha stud.
That's the confusing thing about.
So was he an alpha stud?
About Mel? No, hell no. She has low.
Skills, then.
Yeah, she has low opinions of herself, and she settled.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like you're doing the same thing because you're 36 and you're dating a chick that's older than you with 2 kids.
Well, we'll go back to when I was single and dating.
Question before you do that, Jesse, you're 36. Do you want to have kids?
Maybe. That's still an undecided factor for me. I did with my previous marriage.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still weighing up. I've got a couple of years left to make up my mind about that. I'm not sure yet. This is being with my girlfriend and around the kids. Amazing experiences, some difficult experiences, and I've got a perspective that I didn't have before, and I'm still uncertain about it. But with me choosing a single, like me, you thinking like me, thinking less of myself, choosing the single mum with the kids to date. In the period of time I was single, I went out with. It doesn't, not to count. Probably dated less than 10 women in that period of time that I was single, but I was seeing 3 or 4 at one time while I was seeing Mel. Mel's my girlfriend, and she was just the most fun. She was. That was one thing that was lacking in my previous relationship. I was looking for fun. I was looking for someone that loved life, that wasn't afraid to, be silly in public.
Hey, Jesse, let me ask you a question. Is she fun when you're around the kids and her?
Yes, but not as. That was leading me to my one issue, my one bugbear with this entire relationship is the lack of time. When we can facilitate time away from the kids and we can go on a date, or we can do something just us, because I've told her lots of times, I said, love your kids. They're not the issue that I thought they were going to be. We still need to we've been dating just over a year. And I said, but in this situation, we need to spend more time alone, because we need to figure out how we function together, how we communicate. There's fights we haven't had. There's arguments that we haven't had because we haven't had time alone.
So if I can just kind of distill your question, that you're bringing up to try to avoid the train wreck, is you're concerned that there's not enough quality, like one-on-one time together, right? Like she's not putting herself first. She's got other priorities going on. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that's the one thing that is my issue is should I be expecting that she can facilitate more time?
No.
Is that something no. I should let go?
Yep. You should let go
because she, that's the thing. Like, I need to get over myself.
Hold on a sec. Somebody's trying to ring me in somehow on Hangout. I'm not exactly sure how this is happening. Looks like they hang up. Anyway, sorry. I apologize, guys. I don't know why that happens. Sean, do you have any clarifying questions for him on that?
Yeah. I want to know, do you know where you're headed in life? What's your mission, and does she fit with your mission?
Yes. We're quite like-minded. I run a karate class. I love mentoring. I love coaching. She's a Girl Guides leader. She's been involved in guides since she was a little girl. She loves coaching and mentoring in her own ways. We both love family. We both love community. She's trying to get back into the workforce, get back into her career.
Whoa. Hold a second. She doesn't work?
No, she had to leave her when she... Yeah, there's backstory that we didn't get to.
Hang on a sec there, man. That's kind of an important point.
Right?
Right?
No, it
doesn't have a
is.
job. Like, how does she live? Is she living off the ex-husband?
I got part way through the backstory, and we went on a tangent.
Okay, but I mean, like, I don't want to take another 20 minutes. Like, let's get it wrapped up in about 5. So, yeah.
So, what would you like to know? Why she doesn't work?
Yeah, like, why is she not working?
She has a toddler, and not enough money to put her toddler in daycare every day.
So, who's paying the bills right now?
Australian taxpayers.
Dude, you're 36 years old. You bring no kids to the table. Are you 5 feet tall?
No, I'm 6 feet tall.
You're 6 foot tall. So you got one of the 6 sixes. Do you make 6 figures?
No.
Are you close to 6 figures?
Nowhere near. I had a couple of career upsets last year that got derailed.
I would love for you to take the effort, energy, and resources that you're investing into this woman without a job, with another man's children, and put it back into yourself to get you up to that level, so that you don't have to put yourself in a position where you're limited to dating a stay-at-home mom with a toddler that doesn't have a job, and then asking questions like, do I get to spend enough time with her, and can we be in a relationship where we put each other first? I know I'm coming off as an asshole. You're probably not liking this right now.
No, you've got a completely valid point, and the reason it's the initial attraction, a fun person, which took me a fair while to find, and like I said, everyone else fell away. I didn't know her kids for a few months while we were dating, and we just had so much fun together. I had
good. So have fun. Why do you have to talk about an LTR or anything long term? Have fun, spin some plates. I mean, you've only dated 10 women since you broke up, and you've settled on a very low common denominator here, which is a stay-at-home mom. Like, you see these chicks on dating apps where it says profession, stay-at-home mom. Those are the ones that get thrown in the garbage by most men, but you picked that up and you dusted it off. You ever heard that saying, you can't put makeup on a pig and make it look any better? It's still a pig, right?
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I didn't pick.
I know you don't agree with it.
Anyone up and dust them off.
I know you don't agree with it because you're doing it and you're trying to justify why you're doing it, right?
Because she makes me happy. Because when we get
a dog will make you happy. A fast car will make you happy. Going camping for the weekend.
A dog won't suck my dick.
No, you're right. It won't.
A dog won't put on a nice dress and go out on the town with me.
Right, but there's lots of other women that don't have a 2-year-old toddler and a 9-year-old and a divorce and are 39 and don't have a job that will. And will have more than enough time to invest into you and the relationship.
But it took me half a year of dating to find this one. And
dude, keep going. Half a year? Come on, man. You're 36. Have some fun. What are you stopping for?
People just got boring. We have different perspectives on dating, but I was talking and seeing lots of women, and
you said that you dated 10, right?
This one stood out. Well, for me, that's huge because I've spent a long period of my life in long-term relationships.
Yeah, so you're a serial monogamist.
Yeah, and I tried to get out of that, but I just... Yeah.
You know how you get out of it? You spin plates for a longer period of time until the cream rises to the top. You didn't even let the cream rise to the top. The whole point of spinning plates is you date multiple women in a non-monogamous fashion simultaneously, and the contrast of those simultaneous dates on an ongoing basis will demonstrate to you quite clearly what the cream is, and it'll rise to the top itself naturally. And that might take 6 months. It might take a couple of years of spinning plates, depending on where you live and what the dating pool looks like and what your sexual marketplace value is. But if it were me, dude, I would take the time, effort, and energy and resources and invest it in myself. Make yourself your own mental point of origin and big yourself up so you don't have to message the stay-at-home mommies on a dating app.
Well, I haven't messaged any stay-at-home mummies on a dating app for over
You know what
a
I'm saying?
year.
You know what I'm saying, though, right? Like this is what most people pass on.
Yeah. My bugbear is and still is not should I get out of this relationship, because I'm happy. There is an aspect of the relationship that's making me unhappy. Now, do I need to learn to let go of this aspect of the feeling unhappy because she can't figure out how and what she should prioritize in her life? Should I give her a period of time to...
I'll let you take this question, Sean, because I already said my bit.
Yeah, Jesse, let me take it in a little different direction here. So let's set her aside. Let's forget about how wonderful she is and how fun she is and all the great qualities that she has. Okay. And let's just talk about this from a risk management standpoint. There's 4 things to think about that really fuck up relationships. Oh, sorry, Rich. Am I allowed to say that on your video?
Of course you can.
Okay. All right.
I said fuck already. That's right.
Religion, kids, sex, and money. Right. These are the 4 things that will really you got to be aligned on these, or they're going to tear up a relationship and you're going to end up in a really bad place. So I'm hearing a couple of major risk factors from you. Number 1 is you're saying that you're struggling with your career a little bit. This problem is not going to get better in any kind of relationship. You need to get that squared away before you really think about committing to anybody, because it's just going to cause problems. And the other is kids. You're saying you don't have clarity on whether or not you have kids. So again, let's pretend this isn't you. Just pretend it's someone else, and we're just talking about variables here. You got a couple of major variables that are going to introduce problems. And then on top of that, you have this theme in the relationship where you're dissatisfied with the amount of time and attention she can give you. I think you understand why she can't do it, but you're also saying that it's not very acceptable to you. So you have 2 risk factors that are going to flare up into problems, and you already have the kindling for that problem, which is this dissatisfaction. Now, I'm not saying that you can't make it work with her. I'm just saying from a pure risk management standpoint, there are 2 variables here and a third existing problem that you got to get handled before you even ask the question, do I stay with her? What does our future look like?
All right, Jesse.
Yep.
I want you to do me a favor when you get off this. Just go to a browser or tablet and go to the comments, because everybody was commenting while we were chatting there. So just catch up on their feedback as well. Okay?
We'll do. Thanks heaps for your time, guys, and thanks for your patience and listening to me waffle on about my issues. Cheers,
all right,
guys.
man. See ya.
Thanks, Jesse. Hey, Rich, let me jump back to Randy for just a second. Do you remember Randy called? He was a call before, and he was the one that was really ambivalent about breaking up with this girl. We're getting back together with his ex, his common law ex. I found it really interesting. Okay, here's a guy who was stuck in this ambivalence, and his last decision was that he was going to call you, knowing full well what you're going to tell him. So my sense is that he's using you to resolve his ambivalence. And I'm guessing that struggling with ambivalence is a larger theme in his life. And maybe he goes to external sources that have firm answers for him.
I think you might be right. I mean, a lot of people already know what it is they're doing. They're fully aware. They're just looking for permission for somebody to, co-sign whatever it is that they're choosing to do or not to do. Yeah. But it is what it is. We got Paul on. You want to unmute yourself, brother?
Hey, what's going on, Rich?
How you doing, man?
Good. Got my favorite psychologist on here, so
yeah. Hey, before we go to your contribution, you're part of my men's community. Can we just take like a quick commercial break and just let people know what you think of it?
Oh, the men's community?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's the best community you could get involved in. I'm just going to tell you right now, and it's helped me level up my life. And it's not just this kind of stuff. It's making yourself a better person, a better guy, being your own mental point of origin. And my thing was entrepreneurship. I wasn't there to get advice on chicks. I actually give advice on chicks. So that wasn't the thing for me.
Yeah, can you actually plug your YouTube channel?
Oh yeah. It's called the 5%. Sexual dynamics. I'll put it in the link at some point. I'm a little technologically retarded, so I got to get better.
I'll just grab it for you while you ask the question. So you got Sean on. Is this something to do with anxiety, or did you want to talk about the single mommy stuff?
It was actually about anxiety. So hopefully I'm on the right. We can do that. If not, I can call in a different show.
Go ahead, do it.
Okay, cool. So I just broke up I broke it off with my LTR, which is fine. I mean, all the plates started frisbeeing towards my head as soon as I did that. It's not a big deal, but I have a lot of compassion for her and stuff. But you know, I have a passion for helping people out and dealing with these issues. I'm a military background, and I've seen a lot of guys mess their lives up. A lot of compassion for stuff with women, and so.
Sorry, hold on a second. Just had to mute that guy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, I've seen guys screw their lives up. I had 3 guys kill themselves in the last month, and usually there's a chick behind it. What ends up happening is their lives start systematically falling apart, and then the last thing to go is that relationship, because women, you have the burden of performance as a man. So women don't want to stick around through the hard times. Usually, you're usually on a ticking time clock once things start to get rough. And at some point, they're going to leave. The death do your part of the vow for a lot of women, I would say most women, is circumstantial to how their emotions are at the time. And so they start leaving, and then that's when the dude usually has lost everything and he ends up offing himself, And so that was kind of how I got into, coaching and getting into this stuff. But, I, being that I do that, like, you've heard of the term Captain Save-A-Ho, right? So if there's a Captain Save-A-Ho, I have a little bit of a history of being, the general of the Save-A-Ho army. I see like a problem, a series of problems that I know I can help solve. So I go, oh, I got that shit. That's fine. Like, she has all of these other qualities that are great.
Isn't that what military guys are kind of conditioned to do anyway, is solve problems?
Exactly. You know what I mean? So I'm like, oh, well, here's a bunch of problems. Here's a bunch of good stuff, though, too. Good qualities she has. So, I mean, I'm not getting in there with cluster B personality disorder chicks or anything. But, it's like, okay, like, there's all of these other great qualities she has. And, as far as her dedication and to me and coming into my frame and doing, trying to earn my commitment, this particular one was that cream that rose to the top. But the red flag was anxiety issues that she had. And so she had anxiety issues and, past. That was a lot of red flags in her past, not just with relationships and stuff like that, but I mean, more or less with her parents, being in and out of foster care and some of those things. And so my understanding is that, when somebody has feelings of love, but they have a bunch of baggage from, bad experiences, that feelings of love also bring out feelings of anger and hate and things like that, because those are the feelings of what happened when they were betrayed by their parents, when one's on drugs and she ends up in foster care, that sort of thing. And it creates, and I don't know, Doc, if I'm sure you're familiar with attachment theory. So it creates these attachment issues. And I wonder if we could talk a little bit about that, because on the red pill side, we're always talking about Evo Psych, things from Rollo's, Tomasi's book series, which are awesome. Things that are really good there for those types of things to look for. But I don't think we talk enough about the attachment side of it and how trauma can affect that, because for her, and then I'll shut up and let you talk here, but for her, it was, she had these attachment issues. And so for a year and some change, she was great. But when I ran into trouble after doing a military exercise and my business went down and I was dealing with some of my own stuff, I couldn't maintain that same person I always was. I was going through my own struggles. She became uncertain and then started to challenge more and started to be more disrespectful and started to try to take control in the relationship because of those uncertainties. And all those bad feelings of abandonment started coming up for her. And my way of handling it, because for a guy who's an infantry and special forces guy, aggression is a good way to solve most problems for me, right? And so I would handle it by just, when she would be disrespectful, I would be more, and I never laid hands on her, of course, but just be more verbally aggressive and combative towards her. And then, of course, that breaks that bond further. Things break down, and it gets just more and more toxic because I'm failing that test now. And so she's testing more, and it just gets worse and worse. And so I ended up getting my own set of help for PTSD stuff and I like lifted anger off my shoulders, and it's a huge deal. But
Paul, let's distill it to a single question.
Yeah. So single question is, how do we, at what point is the juice not worth the squeeze when someone has an anxiety issue and things in their past? I mean, what am I looking for so that I don't take on a project that's doomed for failure when it comes to anxiety and handling that relationship in an aggressive, combative way because of that anxiety?
Right. Well, anxiety can, if it's untreated, it can become like a third person in a relationship, and it just starts inserting itself in all kinds of different ways. And where it becomes a lost cause is when she is unwilling to deal with the anxiety. And anxiety is easy. I mean, it's not easy, but it's on paper, it's a simple thing to solve. It's a very straightforward recipe. You walk toward it, you confront it, you face it, you develop some skills. And when your mind starts talking to you about abandonment or whatever it is that's coming up for her, you have skills in place for dealing with that. If she's not willing to do that work, then lost cause.
Right. Well, and that's why we're done, pretty much. I mean,
Yeah.
she looked to, kind of mate switch. We actually jumped into an emotional cheating scenario with someone, and I just, decided to shift her emotions to another person.
Yeah, and that's saying more than anxiety to me. You sure there's not a little cluster B there somewhere?
I don't know about cluster B. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, that's unfair to me. That's unfair for me to say, but there's more there going on there than anxiety.
yeah, there probably is. Well, that was a pattern of hers. And so I kind of knew that getting into the LTRs, like my look at it is like this: she's got to complement my life, but there's gonna come a point where she might not complement my life anymore, and then I have to let her go. Now, hopefully, we make it till we're 100 years old and one of us dies of cancer, and that's the tragedy that ends it. But if it ends up being because she's looking to mate switch and do things outside of my standards, well, that was a great year and a half I had. A lot of awesome, sex and fun and awesome time with this 27-year-old chick. And now I'm moving on, right? Like, that's the way it looks. I mean, she didn't, she wasn't able to stay within my standards, so it's done with. Yeah, I mean, it started to degrade though with that anxiety and that personal attacks and stuff like that.
Let me pick on you for a minute. You said that you got. You don't have to answer.
I'm just kidding.
You said that you got reactive, or you got aggressive was the word you used when her anxiety started creeping up and compelling her to start challenging you. So do you have difficulty sitting with someone else's anxiety? Because that sometimes is the one component of the Captain Save-A-Ho recipe.
Yeah. So what for me, it's when someone is attacking or they're turning it on me and attacking me with it. That's when I'm being attacked or I feel like I'm being attacked, I want to get control over that situation. My interpretation is that it's out of control. This person is looking to devalue me and then eventually discard. And
at least you know how it operates, so you can start tackling it now. Right.
Exactly. And so I mean, I got that part figured out, but I mean, it was just more or less the, what point, if she's has a past of having attachment issues, and then she's really attached to me and not just attached to me like for a honeymoon period where a normal like narcissistic relationship where they love bomb and then they start devaluing kind of usually a couple months in. I mean, we're talking well over a year. It was just when things became uncertain for her, she fell into old patterns.
Sure. Right. And it sounds like your challenge is that you become. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rich. I was talking over you.
Yeah. Sorry, man. I was just going to interrupt and say that shit testing came around the same time that your SMV dropped too, because you had that change in your lifestyle and your business and all that as well too, right? Like we didn't clarify that part.
That's correct. So my SMV would have been seen as dropping, even though I'm kind of like, I'm like the alpha fucks guy for her. I'm like the asshole that's going to have sex with her. But I mean, the other things that she's looking at as a now 28-year-old going on 29, the security, potential paternity later, those things, I'm not providing that. It was a vacuum. I was not being the emotional support for her because when I'm being attacked, I'm not going to emotionally support you. I'm going to grab my bag and go to the gym and go fucking pound sand, right? That was my mindset. Sorry for the F-bomb. I don't want to demonetize you.
That's okay. Probably already demonetized anyway.
Probably X YouTube. But yeah, so I mean, that was kind of like my way of handling it was super dread and super just like non-supportive, which I got to balance that out quite a little bit, I think. But
so let me toss something in here. Here's a before the train wreck kind of skill set that guys need to have. She saw you starting to struggle a bit, and so she became anxious. She became anxious. She became aggressive. You were on the receiving end of her anxiety, so you became anxious and you started to escalate it. And this is how anxiety becomes that third component in a relationship. So every guy needs to be able to be calm, cool, and collected like Fonzie when the shit tests come and when she starts getting anxious, because shit tests, what we call shit tests, is a huge category. I don't even know what it means sometimes, but what I hear when I hear that phrase is somebody's getting anxious. And we need to be able to contain that and not react to it, which it sounds like you're working on. Hey man, I got a question to ask you. I'm intrigued by what's going on behind you there.
Okay, well, this is my I forgot it was today.
Hey, Paul, Jordan Peterson called. He wants you to clean your room.
This is my gun basement. Okay, I got like a bunch of crap, and then I got gun stuff behind it. This is not my normal life. Okay,
right on, because it looks mental illness back there.
This is my and I went, oh crap, the show's today, and I just logged on. So I don't sleep in a cot in the corner or anything, and
right on.
And I got a list somewhere, and I'm looking at schools to go visit. You know what I mean? Like, this is just my warehouse. That's cool. A bit of a storage mess. Yeah.
Right on.
Cool. All
right, that's helpful.
All right.
Paul, see you later, man.
Thanks, man.
All right.
Ciao. All right. Yeah, I like that guy. He gets really deep whenever he makes a video. I linked his channel earlier, so check it out. He actually, he'll spend 30 minutes on something, but goes so deep down the rabbit hole. He's really analytical when it comes to thinking things through. Do we have any questions in the comments or super chats I might have missed? I got kind of tied up in the chat here. Did you see anything, Sean?
No, I haven't seen anything. Let me scroll back here for a minute.
And we're going to be on for another 15 minutes, guys. So link is there. We're still waiting for our first woman to join us on this broadcast series. We've done 14 now with a question or something to contribute. We're actually hoping we have a single mother come on and take me to task on something, but they seem to be absent tonight. They're very good at writing, but joining, not so much. You still there, Sean? I just saw that you disappeared. Okay. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, it's the cold. I mean, that's my excuse. Someone said, do people even know who Fonzie is? Do you know who Fonzie is?
Of course I know who Fonzie is.
Right.
I grew up on the Fonzie.
Yeah, well, you can Google it if you don't know who he is. You should know who he is.
All right, let's see if we got any other questions. So we'll be on for another like 14 minutes, guys. If you got any other questions, post them in the chat. I think there was a couple of super chats that came in as we were kind of rolling. Just want to thank you guys for those. Really is appreciated. YouTube's not that kind these days when it comes to monetizing videos. I don't know what that little thing is over your A, but Harvard or Harvard, I don't know. You can unmute yourself. You have a question? No. Oh God.
X Cutie looks like a female from the avatar says, do you guys think this sexual market value in quotes is really a thing?
Is it really a thing? A thing in what sense? Like,
I guess,
like, is it real? Like,
is it real? Yeah.
Or is it like Santa Claus? And it's just something that a bunch of people, believe in until it's proven untrue. I mean, men and women will assess the value of, the apple of their eye. They just do it, and it's a moving target. It's not fixed. I mean, you can improve an SMV, you can decline an SMV. You decline with bad lifestyle choices and habits. It improves if you work on yourself. You get a better job. You make more money. You create some good investments. You learn new skills. You become more competent at something. You can solve problems faster. Of course, it's a moving target. I mean, but it's very different with men and women. Men are judged on their ability to contribute, to demonstrate competence, what they bring to the table, whereas a women's SMV is based primarily on looks. It's based on beauty.
Yeah, and it's a very well documented concept in evolutionary psychology. It's got solid research behind it. And one of the things that I feel kind of bad for women, one of the things that sucks for them is that they start out at very high sexual market value just by virtue of the fact that they're young and attractive, and they decline very quickly. Whereas guys start out real low. I was at 0 when I was age 20, and you start to up until you're about 50, you increase in your sexual market value, provided you make good choices and so forth. And so the lines cross in the middle somewhere. And that's where it gets kind of unpleasant for women sometimes.
Yeah, they say that for women it starts to decline at 23. Although if you say that to women, they'll protest vehemently for sure. Whereas men, it really, I mean, like you're really coming to your stride after your 30s, I would say. You come in your stride, you start making some good choices. You've accumulated some wealth. You've got something going on for you. You're hopefully physically fit. You're not obese. You work out, you eat well. Your SMV goes up, like Sean says. I mean, I think you're maybe pushing it, to 50. How old are you, Sean?
51. I'm on a downhill side, baby.
Yeah,
No,
I think I've been on the
something,
downhill side, but
I can't remember where I said. I saw something that was empirically back that said up to 50, and then it starts to drop off.
I've seen everything from up to 70, believe it or not. Although
yeah,
I think late 30s, early 40s is probably more doable. We'll say 50 just because Sean's on right now. And
but your number of 30 is a good number, and this is why guys should not be making major life decisions about relationships and children before the age of 30, because you haven't even come into your own yet.
I agree 100%. And even at 30, I mean, like we talk to people that are in their 30s that are still making bad choices, right? We had that guy earlier, the Aussie. He's pining for a stay-at-home mother that doesn't have a job with kids in tow, and he doesn't, and he's got a job. And it's like, I don't know, man, like, guys, use that meatball between your ears, put some time into yourself. Trust me, that is the highest ROI, the highest ROI. See if we got any more questions here we can grab into. Got 10 more minutes left, guys. If you want to, here, I'll put the join link again one more time. If you want to join us, otherwise post a question in the chat. We'll hit on it. Anything to do with topics tonight or on single mothers? Sorry, I'm just scrolling up as we kind of go through this.
Yeah, I'm scrolling too. This is fascinating podcast right here. The two of us scrolling through the comments.
I know, like a couple of plebs, a couple of plebeians. Okay.
So I had 3 guys tonight. Went kind of deep with all 3 of them, and it seems like those first 2 both of them were really struggling with ambivalence a bit. And I think if you put a gun to their head, they probably know what the right decision is for them.
Yeah,
but man, really stuck in.
Guys are a glutton for punishment, man. They're a glutton for that shit. They get, they get one-itis for one girl that shows them a little bit of affection and attention, and then they never let that shit go. We have a lady on. Jessica, do you want to unmute yourself? Let's see if she has a question or something to contribute. Going in 3, 2, 1. All right, Matt, we're coming to you, buddy. Unmute yourself. She ran off.
That's too bad. Come back, Jessica. Come back next week.
Matt, unmute yourself. You have a question, something to contribute? Got a super chat from Curtis, my man. Coop and Sean, does their mental dynamic change once their final child has left the house? If a dude, that's a good question. So Curtis is asking, does their mental dynamic change once their final child has left the house if a dude is gaming into his 70s and targeting 35-year-old women?
That seems like 2 different questions. I don't understand the second one, really.
Well, I think the question is, does the mental dynamic change when the child leaves for women? I don't think it ever changes, because I've seen women in their 20s, 30s still mother their kids, some more so than others. I have a friend that has a girlfriend that had a kid at a very young age. I think the kid's like 24 now or something like that. And there's always drama going on, like in and around that. There was no father as he was growing up. So, he didn't really have much of a masculine man. I think it sounds like there was a bit of a turnstile, with men coming and going over the years too. But women never seem to let go of the mothering, I don't think.
No, and when things are going well, what happens, okay, there's this idea in evolutionary psychology that the reason we have that humans have menopause, which is no reason for it, right? There's no logical reason to have menopause other than the fact that when a woman reaches that certain age, that ideally she has had kids and her kids have had kids. So she goes into grandmother phase at that point. And so does a woman's mental dynamic change once her kid leaves the house? No, ideally in her world, from her point of view, she's a grandmother at that point, and that's where her energy is going. And there's this idea out there, and I think that this guy Von Hippel wrote a book recently where he talked about the fact that grandparents greatly increase the survivability of grandchildren. Now we live in America, and in the West, everything's kind of cool and safe. But back when it wasn't so cool and safe, grandparents were very important. So do they change? No, they stay mothers and grandmothers.
All right. So Matt, did you have a question? You came back on? Nope, just hanging. Guys, it's not for hanging. It is to ask questions. I'm going to let you go if you click on to hang. Hey, did you have a question?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good. Fire away.
Hey, how you doing? Thank you for all you do. You've had a major impact on my life. Quick scenario, I won't take too much of your time. Couple-year relationship, single mom, one child, 5 years old. The kid hates me. Not because I am a bad guy. I'm the nicest guy around, but he hates me because me and his mom are, affectionate. We hug, we kiss, we like each other. He is innately jealous.
Yes.
And I saw your episode about, how basically I'm pissing on
the flame of reconciliation. Let's say it together.
Yes, absolutely. And I've talked with her in detail about this. There seems to be no correction of his behavior. I told her if he was my son, then things would be different. However, he's not my son, and I feel I have limited parameters with him to attempt to correct his behavior. Some of the behavior has been very bad to the point where name calling, violent tendencies, and she recently asked me to go on a trip with her and him, and I declined. And the reason I declined is because I told her that the behavior.
Because the kid hates you.
Yeah, because the kid hates me, and and now she thinks I'm a big jerk.
Of course.
And anyway, that's about it. I'd like to get your feedback, and I won't, talk too much after.
How long have you dated her for?
A couple years.
And how old are you?
35.
And how old is she?
36.
And what's the situation with the child's father? Is he in the picture?
Divorced in the picture, half and half custody.
50-50 custody. Yeah. So that's not going to get any better. This is my story. I did 3 years in a similar, scenario with 2 of them, and it only got worse over time. And as they learned that the bad behavior that their mom would side with would influence outcome and create conflict and drive wedges between you guys, it would escalate. And there would be a manufacturing. You know how we talk about how women manufacture indignation in the absence of it? Yeah. Strangely enough, I saw a couple of boys manufacture indignation. Dude, it's bad. And it can get to the point where men can be hauled off in handcuffs and spend the night in fucking jail because of a kid that manufactures some story about conflict, sexual assault. You fill in the blanks, whatever it looks like, whatever they feel like might sway the outcome. And if she's not disciplining the kid and putting the relationship that you guys have ahead of the bad behavior, I can just tell you right now, dude, you're in for a whole world of problems and a whole world of hurt. Look for that as a big red flag. The big red flag is, if the kid's behaving badly and needs to be disciplined, does she side with you or does she side with the bad behavior to just, protect the kid?
Yeah, she essentially takes a very passive role. And, you know, I tell them.
You broke up there for a sec, man. Can you just back up about 5 seconds? I think we might have lost his audio.
Anything he wants. So when he comes back to the mom, there's structure, but not much leadership. So unfortunately, me asking her for her to discipline and change the situation hasn't happened. And I think my final question would be, do you ever think that could happen?
No. Let me ask you this question, though. If you were to rate yourself on an SMV scale, where would you put yourself on a scale of 1 to 10?
9.
So what are you settling for a single mom with a 5-year-old boy that hates you for then?
Valid question. Got it. Understood.
Right. I mean, if you put yourself at a 4, I'd be like, okay, we got some work we can do on you. But if you're putting yourself at a 9, you're pretty much the best version of yourself. Why are you settling for this crap? You're going to get out of life what you tolerate, right?
For sure. Right on.
All right, man.
Cool, man. Take care.
Yeah.
Hey, Rich, I was thinking about this earlier today, actually, this situation, this scenario where the kid is upset with the boyfriend or whatever. And it's a catch-22, because if the kid doesn't like you and the mom is siding with the kid, then obviously you're on the outs. But would you want to be with a woman who didn't put her kids first? I wouldn't. So once that conflict enters a relationship, it's no win.
Well, the key phrase is, in my opinion, the bad behavior. So, you know, a friend of mine said this once, that kids have a way of throwing rocks on the ice to test it. Hang on a sec. I'm going to just mute you there. And, you know, when they're going to behave badly to test the relationship or to test the boundaries, and you can't discipline them, and she won't let you discipline them, and she doesn't discipline them, all that does is that just reinforces the bad behavior, and it tells the kid, you can continue to behave like a little brat. And that kid will continue to escalate that behavior, and it'll get worse to the point where next time you get kicked in the shin real hard, you keel over. Next time you get punched in the nuts, and it just doesn't go away, just escalates to the point where it just continues on, to the point where the kid's 16 and he steals your car and drives it into a wall, and it's all your fucking fault, sort of thing, right? That's really where I see it as, does she discipline the kid with bad behavior? And if she doesn't, then she's encouraging it.
And do you want that chaos in your life?
No, why would you? I mean, I get that guys will tolerate it. I get that guys with fewer options or, limited options will tolerate that. That's why, you see women on dating apps that literally say in their profile profession, stay-at-home mother. I mean, what kind of job is that? Like, what are you doing? You're looking for a thirsty beta provider to be an ATM to facilitate your lifestyle. And to me, a single guy that's 36 that's dating that, to me, it means you got to be working on your shit. You have game to work on. You have to probably get a gym membership. Maybe you got some belly fat you got to burn off. Maybe there's debt lingering over you. There's something going on there that's telling you this is the best that I can get.
Yeah.
Right? And that's not to be disparaging, guys. Like, I'm just pointing to the facts. I mean, like, if you're a top shelf man, you're not going to tolerate kids behaving badly or dating women that don't have jobs that are, on the dole, or the government supporting them, or whatever it is, right? We're coming up on 90 minutes.
Yeah, I think we're past 90 minutes here.
We're past 90 minutes. So badass 1G, sorry, brother, I'm going to let you go because we plan on keeping the show tight. So come back next week if you have a question. Again, want to thank everybody for the contributions, the super chats. Those of you that are members, you'll notice in the chat, the people that are members, their name is kind of highlighted in a funny way with a little avatar icon. There's a join button. I think it's over by the subscribe button. I think it's $4.99 a month. And a little bit of that comes to the channel. So it certainly helps out. Any closing thoughts, Sean?
Well, just a little reminder, I'm out on the 15th next week, but I'm back on the 23rd.
Correct. Yeah, Sean's not around next week, so I'm going to do a solo episode, but I'm going to focus on red flags when it comes to things outside of women. We're going to focus on things like around business, creation of wealth, business, anything tied in around those components. So Have questions ready. You can join in similar sort of format. I'm hoping this thing will be hooked up so I can have blog talk and you guys can call in. But yeah, good show. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining me, Sean. I'll see you in 2 weeks then for episode 16.
Yep. Thanks, man.
Thanks, guys. See you guys later. Peace out.